Pokemon has been a main staple in gaming for years, from the early 8-bit games of the Game Boy to the now released Pokemon Sun and Moon on Nintendo 3DS. Pokemon isn't going anywhere. In fact, the trend now is showing that Pokemon's only going to get even more popular, as Sun and Moon was set to be the fastest selling Nintendo game stateside, according to an article by Polygon. But the popularity of Pokemon, unlike any other AAA game, is not attributed to its gameplay and its mechanics. It may seem as if the gameplay of Pokemon would keep you from playing the game every year, but it's actually something else that Game Freak created, a community. Now before I explain how the communities evolve Pokemon to astronomical heights, and not the gameplay, let me explain the actual mechanics of Pokemon. For those not in the know, Pokemon is a basic turn-based RPG or role-playing game where creatures called Pokemon are captured by the player and trained in battle, and each have a special ability. They also have types, which allow for special advantages and disadvantages against other Pokemon. Besides nuances with the story, this is basically Pokemon. The gameplay is extremely basic, with hundreds of other RPGs having a much more complex battle system. It's basically a rock, paper, scissors system that's fairly accessible to new players. When the original Pokemon Red and Blue came out, kids were in a frenzy. Even a London University professor, David Buckingham, put it bluntly, that it was, quote, actually difficult to find a single term to describe it. Kids were enamored with the idea of catching their own Pokemon and going out on an adventure by themselves. Buckingham explains how Pokemon attributes its early success based on how it speaks to early childhood experiences. This can be seen by how the protagonist is a 10-year-old kid ready to go out on a journey with his Pokemon, which is something kids would dream of and want to live out in these video games. He also explains how the games were made and marketed not as boy games, but something for anyone. As a matter of fact, most might not even know that it wasn't until 2000's Pokemon Crystal where the game gave a choice between a male and female protagonist. The other main reason for the success can be attributed to the trading put forward in Pokemon, which is what this video is going to focus on, the community building. There were purposely two versions of the game, each with its own exclusive Pokemon. This meant kids were forced to interact with each other in forms of trades and battles with the others in order to complete their Pokedex, a record of caught or obtained Pokemon. It was this aspect of community building that proved to be monumental to the success of Pokemon, not the actual mechanics or even the aesthetic of being a 10-year-old out on an adventure. How can we tell? Well, when the sequel came out, Pokemon Gold and Silver, the game mechanics stayed almost exactly intact. Even the story, you're still a 10-year-old kid out on an adventure, yet the sales proved to be still successful and make Nintendo a lot of money. This is because people were looking forward to the new Pokemon they could trade with their friends, people were discussing the new Pokemon with others, and the community largely stayed intact. The game largely stayed the same, yet the community at this point blasted off. Anna Allison's MIT paper explained how Japan was flooded with Pokemon merchandise, like Pokemon cell phones, toys, backpacks, even Pokemon-themed food items, all during her travels. All this without fundamentally tweaking anything significant in the original games to its sequel. People seem to never got tired of collecting these monsters, because it wasn't a chore to collect them like other games might make it. The community relished these monsters. They were shown off to others as a status symbol of your cred amongst your friends. Players from the first part of the first game were placed into a community, with every aspect of the game being placed into this community. And this community drove the game to new heights, and developers looked to the community for new ways to advance the series, not always themselves. For example, during the third generation of the game, people started to take a look into competitive battle, something Game Freak never really focused on too much. Normally something like this would go unnoticed by the developers because if it ain't broke, don't change it. But Game Freak relied on its community to evolve the series, so competition like Pokemon World Champions was born. These champions had like prize pools of $500,000. By the next game, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, online battling was introduced to please the community with this newfound sense of competitive battling. The game itself is, guess what, largely the same. You're still a kid in the game, even though a large portion of players are older, but it doesn't matter. The games evolve based on the community, not the actual game mechanics. Why else would people still play the game every year if they get older? The community keeps them coming back. As with new Pokemon brings new competitive scenes and old friends to trade and battle with. Even the new Sun and Moon games features just for competitive battling. As this Tech Times article explains, certain Pokemon have certain abilities like Dazzling that makes Pokemon priority moves lose their speed advantage. If you haven't played the games, that literally makes no sense. Tweaks like this please the community more than anything else and attribute to this game's success. Just look at the sales of Pokemon Sun and Moon, the fastest selling Nintendo game of all time in the States. And to get here, Game Freak didn't have to fundamentally change or improve its game mechanics. League of Legends, like in other popular online games, may share an aspect of community building as well, but those games were made with the community in mind. Pokemon has been carried and evolved by the community, and it will be, all the way to the end.